everybody. I have a great show for you today. It's all about menopause and hormone replacement therapy. Dr. Barbara Taylor is going to join me. So I'll let you guys start coming on. Hope you guys are having a great Saturday. Hello, hello. We have a great show. I have gathered all of your questions. So over the last week, I've asked you guys to submit your questions for Dr. Taylor, who's going to be joining us very shortly. I have already given her those, so she's going to be super prepared. I hope that we can get through all of them, but I've had some great, amazing questions from you guys. So I'm so glad. I'm going to post this live for you guys on my main feed afterwards, okay? So that way you can go back and learn from all of this stuff. Dr. Barbara Taylor is literally, I think, one of the most, I don't know how to even say it. I think she's changed millions of people's lives because she has dedicated her life now to educating people on menopause. So let's see if I can get her to come on here. It's just 11:01. I'll let you guys just keep coming on. I'll see if I can see when she comes on, and I'll invite her to join then. But yes, Dr. Barbara Taylor, otherwise known as Menopause Barbie, she has a website called menopausetaylor.me where you can do private consultations with her. And her whole slogan is menopause my way. So everybody's different. Every human is different. But the one thing for sure is that all women, when we get to a certain age, we're going to go through this. Let me see if I can invite her on. Okay, hold on. Menopause. I hope you're having a great Saturday. It's supposed to storm tomorrow. Let's see. She's in Paris, you guys. So she might be running a little bit behind. But I'm gonna let you guys just keep coming on. It's all about menopause, you guys. And for the men who are on this right now, I'm going to tell you right now, do not log off of this, because if you've got a mother, you got a sister, you have a wife, a girlfriend, all women, if we get to a certain age, are going to go through menopause. So if you think that menopause is not going to affect you, men out there, I beg to differ. I beg to differ. Okay. Hi, everybody. Hello, hello. Let me try to see if I can invite her again. 1 second, you guys. Hope you guys are having a great day. Hey, tomorrow I am going to be microneedling, I think, my whole entire face. It says she's unable to join, so I'm going to invite her again. It's going to be a great show, you guys. She is full of information. If you have not checked out her YouTube channel, please do that. It's under Menopause Barbie. She is like the leading menopause educator out there, a retired OBGYN, and she's dedicated this part of her life to educating women. She sees people one-on-one, and we have got a lot of questions for her. So let's see if I can. I've invited her again. Let's see. I missed a request from her. Okay, well, okay, what we can do is, while we're waiting for her to come on, I can just go over a few things that I've discovered going through this. I am 55 years old, you guys, so I am in the thick of it, in the thick of menopause right now. And it's so much more than just hot flashes and night sweats and, brain fog. There's a lot of health risks that happen when our hormones decline, particularly estrogen, because estrogen is what protects us, our bones, our brains, our hearts. And when that estrogen starts dipping is when all of the age-related diseases, we become more prone to them. So when your estrogen dips, your heart is more prone to heart attacks, your bone density starts decreasing, we get brain fog, but also we're at a much higher risk of Alzheimer's and dementia with that dip in estrogen. I'm so glad you love Jesus. Okay, let me see if I can, not sure what's going on here, but let me see if I can invite her again. She might be having just a little bit of trouble. So we'll see if I can invite her again. Okay, but I did start collecting all of you guys' questions here. So we have, one of them is, what are the health benefits of being on HRT? And before Dr. Taylor gets on here, I want to kind of go over some of this stuff, because there's the whole school of thought about aging gracefully and just letting the hormones do whatever they're going to do as we go through the aging process. And that's honestly, if you think about it, if you think about hormones in general, that's, if we had a problem with our thyroid and we were 75, 80, 90 years old, we'd still be addressing our thyroid, which is a hormone that is in control of all of the metabolic functions of all of our organs. Well, the same is true when our sex hormone starts dipping. So testosterone, estrogen, all of these. Oh, good. Yay.
We are having technical difficulties.
That is okay. That is okay. I'm so glad and so grateful that you are here, Dr. Taylor. Everybody, this is Dr. Barbara Taylor.
All right.
I can hear you fine. I can see you fine. All is good.
Okay.
Oh, technology. We love it and we hate it, don't we?
Oh, no, I just hate it. There is no love on my end.
Well, for those of you guys that are on here, this is Dr. Barbara Taylor. She's a retired OBGYN, but she is the leading resounding voice on social media as a menopause educator. I have learned so much from you, just from following you on YouTube, and from having you on the show last time. So I'm so grateful that you're here. We have a ton of questions.
Okay.
So, first of all, I want to know which I got this question so many times and I submitted it to you, but before we start getting into like the nitty gritty of all of them, why do we need to be on hormone replacement therapy? What are the benefits of this?
Think about it this way. If your pancreas stopped producing insulin, would you wonder whether or not you should be taking insulin?
No.
And if your thyroid gland stopped producing thyroid hormone, would you be debating or wondering why you should take thyroid hormone? You see, a hormone deficiency is a hormone deficiency is a hormone deficiency. You can substitute any hormone name, but a deficiency is always the same. Any hormone deficiency produces a great big long list of symptoms that are your body's way of getting your attention to let you know, gosh, something's missing. Yeah. And every hormone deficiency has fatal diseases that will ensue if you don't replace the hormone. These diseases don't happen quickly.
Yeah.
They're all a matter of time and development. And so it's about, if you lost your insulin, you wouldn't have kidney failure immediately. It would take time. You would have years and it would get worse and worse. Okay, so this is how all hormone deficiencies work. The reason your body produces hormones is because it can't live without them. That's why it produces them itself. And so when we lose a hormone, we have to do something to compensate for the loss of that hormone. Now, with every other hormone on the planet, we just take the hormone replacement. But nobody else has told you that insulin or thyroid hormone is some kind of demon that'll kill you.
Right.
They've told you about estrogen. And yet you don't hear men saying testosterone is going to hurt them. Okay, right. So you have to think about it in terms of, well, you've been walking around planet Earth with your own body producing a bucket of estrogen your entire reproductive life. And each pregnancy is like 10 buckets of estrogen. So if it's bad, why didn't it strike you dead when you had the bucket? And if it's bad, why did you feel good when you had the bucket? And why do you feel bad when you lose the bucket? I mean, this is how you logically decide what makes sense and what to do, because you've been terrorized by one study 21 years ago that did a study that basically was like taking a bunch of insulin-dependent diabetics who were taking insulin, and when they went on to develop some of the diseases of insulin insulin. That's what that study did. That is, and when you run out of it, you start aging rapidly on the inside and the outside. That's why it all feels so horrible. So this is what you should think about in terms of asking yourself, what's the benefit? What's the risk? Okay, and I'm all about education and logic. I'm all about making you think in a way that allows you to answer your own questions. I never tell anyone what to do. I never recommend or promote anything. I just teach you how to think.
The connection's a little spotty, so I think people are saying like there's just a little bit of spottiness. But for those of you who do not know about this study, this was the Women's Health Initiative that was done, what was it, in the 50s or something? Or the 70s?
No, it was 2002. It was, but they stopped one arm of it at 5.2 years and then stopped the second arm of it at 6.3 years because they said to everybody, oh, it's just too scary. It's too dangerous. We can't even continue the study. Well, they didn't even finish the doggone study. So this is where everyone's getting this scare information. And it's a study that was incomplete and that was poorly designed in the first place and didn't even bring out objectives that were the original things that they were studying. They changed gears along the way. It was really the biggest debacle medicine has ever seen.
It really was. Yeah, it really was. And we're still suffering because of that. It was, I say it was from the 50s or 70s because it is so antiquated in terms of the speed of which we're learning about menopause. It's so antiquated. They were using women that were very much postmenopausal, synthetic hormones. The study wasn't completed. The media got a hold of it and spread it like wildfire. And it's misinformation. And it has since been rescinded, but we're still suffering from the aftermath of this poorly designed study. So that is that's one of the things that scares women from being on hormone replacement therapy. So are there risks? Because this question came up so many times. Are there real risks to replacing your hormones?
Well, there are always benefits and risks with everything in life. Okay, when you get in your car, there's a benefit, there's a risk. Everything you do all day has some benefit, some risk. So the key to success is to weigh your benefits and your risks. Everything has to be tailored to the individual. So the risks and benefits for me may not be the same as they are for you. I have to weigh my risks and benefits and my comfort zone and decide for myself what's best for me. But nothing is best for all women, and that'll never be the case. We all have to decide for ourselves how we weigh our benefits and risks and what's the best thing. You always want to maximize your benefits and minimize your risks. That's the name of the game. And how you do that and what your trade-offs are entirely up to you. The problem is you have to know what each option for management can do and what each option for management cannot do. And the mistake I see women make is somehow they think that food and exercise can do what a hormone does. And that's magical thinking. It's never going to happen. I'm sorry. Food is food. Exercise is exercise. A hormone is a hormone. They all do different things. They're all important. They all have some benefits, but they aren't going to do each other's jobs. And this is where everyone makes the mistake because they try to use stuff that just, if you were an insulin-dependent diabetic, would you use an herb? You don't do that with anything for which you didn't have fear. But see, fear is the most powerful emotion on earth, and it makes people's brains go dead, and they don't ask questions and they don't think critically. They just react to the fear. And that's the big problem with all this.
Yes. And so that was one of the questions too, is like the black seed oil, the black cohosh, all of these over-the-counter herbal supplements, are those just masking the symptoms? Or are they actually?
They are each for particular, they each address particular symptoms and they can help relieve, but nothing can do what estrogen can do. See, here's the problem. When you have 22 symptoms that are all due to estrogen deficiency, You don't have 22 problems. You have one problem. So you can
we
take
go
22,
over some of
you
those
can take 20, you can take 22 different herbs, one for each symptom, and try to alleviate some of them. But nothing's going to do the same job as just getting rid of the one thing that caused all of them in the first place. You see, that's the difference. And you have to decide, is that worth it for you or not? And yeah, you can use a bunch of different things for every single symptom. Are they going to do the same thing in preventing the diseases as a hormone will do? No way. And so that's the other. Even if something alleviates a symptom, it does not mean it's going to prevent the diseases. The 3 diseases that are due entirely to estrogen deficiency are heart attack, osteoporosis, and Alzheimer's. And the reason is that estrogen is what kept your heart arteries soft and supple. When you lose your estrogen, your heart arteries start getting stiffer. And the longer you go without estrogen, the harder your heart arteries get. This is how we get to hardening of the arteries. This is what precedes a heart attack. Yeah. When it comes to bone, when you lose your estrogen, you start losing bone, and bone goes from this to this over time. And the same thing with your brain. When you have estrogen, your brain is big, and the parking spots for estrogen are full because estrogen is a fuel for your brain. But when you lose your estrogen, your brain is running on fumes, and that's why you have the brain fog and the mental fog and the trouble concentrating. The brain is shrinking. Well, that's what Alzheimer's is, brain shrinkage. So everything makes perfect sense. It's just when you've been terrorized, you don't think logically. You react to the fear.
Right. Right.
It's
Are there certain people who breast cancer runs in their family and they shouldn't be on hormone replacement? See, even that logically doesn't make sense to me because they've been.
So that's like saying if someone else in your family has pancreatic cancer, you shouldn't take insulin. Does that make any sense?
No, that makes no sense.
Well, if you think about it that way, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
You shouldn't do something because someone else had a disease. I mean, it doesn't connect you can't connect those dots. It's all fear. This is the power of fear. It's the most powerful emotion on earth. And once you scare people, it's very difficult to erase or reverse fear. It's almost impossible.
And they're not teaching this in medical school. They're not teaching. Correct. I think that there's not enough education about menopause for even an OBGYN. It's like a little short blip of the education.
Absolutely right. There is no education on menopause in medical school at all, none. And in a 4-year obstetrics and gynecology residency program, only 1% of the time is spent on menopause. It's the most neglected topic on our planet, even though half of the world's population spends half of their lives in menopause. And you have to stop and go, wait a minute, how did we get here? How did this happen to us? Because until women wake up and demand more, nothing's going to change.
Absolutely.
We have to lead the tide of change on this. We have to be the ones who do it. We are the largest group on the planet, by the way. Not acting like it.
Yeah. Okay, I have a lot of questions. One of the major questions, and I saw it also scroll up in the questions here, is it ever too late to start hormone replacement therapy? Is it ever too late?
It depends on the person. The only part of your body that can get to a point where it does not love estrogen is your heart. So here's an analogy. Let's say you were a runner in your 20s. Let's say in your 20s you were long, lean, you had no medical problems and no arthritis in your knees, and running is good for you. Okay, we're going to paint 2 scenarios over the next 40 years. Scenario 1 is 40 years goes by and nothing changes. You remain long and lean. You don't develop any diseases. You don't have any arthritis in your knees. And then in that event, running is still good for you. Nothing's changed. You're the same, basically, in terms of your health, and running is still good for you. Okay, in scenario 2, let's say 40 years goes by, and you gain 80 pounds, you become diabetic, you get high blood pressure, you start getting heart disease, and you get arthritis in your knees. Well, in that scenario, things are different. You have changed, and your risks are higher, and now running is not good for you because your body can't handle it anymore, not because of what it is, not because of the running, but because your body is too damaged. So this is what can happen to your heart. If in the process of having no estrogen, your heart gets too much buildup of plaque in the arteries to be able to handle what it used to love, then you may not be a good candidate any longer for estrogen. This is how this works. But that's the only part of your body that can get to the point where it's no longer a good thing for you. It's your heart only. So I tell women, go get a cardiac evaluation. Find out the status of your heart. See if your heart's in good shape. And if your heart's in good shape, then you're still a good candidate. If your heart's not in good shape, you're not. You have to find out your own status. And once you do that, you have the peace of mind that you need to make a decision. Peace of mind is everything. Always, always, always give yourself peace of mind. Do whatever you need to get peace of mind because you deserve it.
So if somebody, for example, because I had one of these questions in here, if somebody, for example, is 65, they're postmenopausal, they've been on HRT for a while, they get off of it, and then they start having, I think they started having brain fog. They tested positive for bone density loss. They had the beginnings of that. As long as they go into their doctor and get their heart tested to make sure that they don't have hardening of the arteries, it's okay for them to resume HRT. I love that.
Only limiting the heart is the only thing that could make you say that your risks are greater than your benefits. It's only about the heart. There is nothing where you would say, oh, wait a minute, my risks are too high. So that's the way to go. If you have time, if you have gone for a long period of time without estrogen, or you've stopped and you want to restart, the way to know whether or not your benefits and risks are worthy of estrogen, get a heart evaluation.
I love that. And should we also be, so this was a question, should we also be doing bone density tests, heart evaluations at a certain time? Like if we know that we're perimenopausal or menopausal, should we automatically, before we start doing hormone replacement therapy, should we already evaluate? I know what the answer is because we really need to know what's going on. I already know what the answer is.
In a perfect world, you would think, oh, the logical thing is when you start losing your estrogen, you get these tests so that you know your baseline, right?
Right.
That would make sense, because if you don't know your baseline, you really can't make assessments for what comes later. But guess what? The medical industry is not a health care industry.
No.
It is a disease care industry.
Absolutely.
We MD are repairmen. We learn how to fix you once you're broken. And the bottom line, unfortunately, is this. The medical industry does not want to spend its money on you until you are broken. So all the guidelines that your doctor follows tell your doctor to wait until you're broken to spend any money on these tests. So the guidelines for bone density tests that your doctor has in writing say, do not offer a bone density test until age 65. Now, of course, we start losing our estrogen about 15 or 20 years before then. Okay, I force every woman who has consultations with me to go get a bone density test. And they are shocked when they're 52, 53, and they find that they're already on the doorstep of osteoporosis. And they go, thank God you had me get this, because now they can do something about it before they fracture and become crippled for the rest of their lives.
Yes.
This is the way osteoporosis works. Bone loss occurs when you lose your estrogen, but there are no symptoms at all, so you don't know this is happening. And all the fractures that occur come out of the blue. They're called fragility fractures because they do not require any trauma, and bam, they don't heal, and so you're crippled for the rest of your life. This is precisely why 90% of every nursing home is full of women who fractured. This is it. And they didn't get the lesson they're learning here, and they never connected the dots when they lost their estrogen at 50 and fractured at 60, and then they're crippled for the rest of your life. So ideally, go get a bone density test and pay for it yourself. Do not wait for the guidelines to pay for you, because the guidelines do not care about you. Your insurance does not care about you. Advocate for yourself, demand the bone density test, pay for it yourself, and that way you have the information, because you need to know where you stand on the scale if you're going to have any hope of doing anything about it, should you need to.
100%. I've often told clients of mine who are in midlife like I am, I'm 55 years old, and they say that their gynecologist says that they're not really a candidate for hormone replacement therapy, and they don't really want to prescribe that. And I always say, like, find a different doctor. The doctor is not advocating for your best health. They're not being proactive in your health. So that brings me to one of these questions. So one of the questions was, how do you know at what stage you are in menopause? When should you first start being concerned with testing your hormones to get that baseline?
Well,
and what are multiple symptoms? Because menopause does not manifest itself in every woman exactly the same.
They're all different. But here's the key. You said when to get tested for hormones. That is not what you need to do. The bottom line is, by definition, menopause is where you are going to lose all of your estrogen. It's as certain as death and taxes. But it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to be a process, and it can take 2 to 10 years. Okay? That process is called perimenopause. And the bottom line with perimenopause is that it is chaos. So if you were to check your hormones every day during perimenopause, they would look like a complete roller coaster. So hormone levels for the sex hormones, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, are worthless. Don't waste your time, blood, or money with those. Because the bottom line is, each one is a snapshot in time, and your life is not a snapshot. Yeah. Your life is the composite of everything going on in your life, and the whole thing is chaotic. And the goal is to bridge the gap between having your own hormones produced by your body and losing it all in a period of 2 to 10 years. So the key is, know what the symptoms are, and then when you start having any symptoms, you go, oh my goodness, this is probably menopause. Because if you recognize it, you don't need a test to tell you that you're perimenopausal any more than you needed a test to tell you that you were in puberty. No one had to get a blood test for puberty.
Right. That makes perfect sense, because everybody's hormone levels are different.
Of course.
We're all individual people. When you're in perimenopause, it's a snapshot. It's not a true kind of baseline of where you are.
Exactly.
When you start having symptoms, when you guys start having symptoms, if you're having a hot flash, if we can think of my bones, my brains, my heart are in jeopardy right now. If we can tie those two, instead of masking it with over-the-counter stuff, when you're having a hot flash or night sweats or you have insomnia and you're in that midlife, if we can think about that as not like, oh my gosh, this is inconvenient, but my bones are in jeopardy. My heart, my brain.
Yep. And most women who tell me that, oh, I don't have symptoms, are completely wrong. The problem is the only symptoms they know about are hot flashes.
So let's go over them. What are all the symptoms?
The symptoms of estrogen deficiency are anxiety, hot flashes, night sweats, insomnia, fatigue, forgetfulness, mood swings, irritability, depression, dry skin, hair loss, dryness of your vagina, joint pain and joint stiffness, urinary incontinence, vaginal dryness, urinary tract infections, decreased sex drive, weight gain. I mean, most women have a bunch of these, and they all start happening here and there around the same time. Well, guess what? If it walks like a duck and talks like a duck, and I mean, come on, it's a duck. So you don't need. It's no mystery that this is gonna. Okay, when you have a teenager, okay, if you have a 12-year-old or an 11-year-old, you know what's coming the first time they roll their eyes at you, don't you? You know you know what you're in. You go, oh my God, here we go for the next 3 years or so. Okay, this is the same. This is the same. You have your first sign or symptom, and you go, uh-oh, I'm there, and you start making sure you do whatever it takes to bridge the gap. You don't want to live through the chaos.
No.
You don't want to have to live through this whole roller coaster. Your job is going to fall apart. Your marriage is going to fall apart. You're going to hate everybody. I mean, why do that to yourself?
Exactly. Why are we living through suffering? Why do we think that this is okay? Why do we think that, like, oh, this is just a natural passage of time? We're living so much longer than we ever were before.
There's nothing natural about it. It's no more natural than your pancreas out. It's no more natural than your pancreas dying and you're outliving your pancreas. There is nothing natural about outliving your ovaries. The people confuse the word common with the word natural. Just because something's common does not mean it's natural.
Yeah.
Okay? It's common sense to understand that if you run out of a hormone, things are going to be miserable. And you're not supposed to live without the hormone. Okay? And the bottom line is it's great that we're living so long, but we are outliving our ovaries, and we're living half of our lives that way. So if you don't want to be miserable for half your life, then
exactly
do something about it.
I love that. Okay, so there was somebody that asked, like, are there natural alternatives versus taking prescriptions? That's, I think we've already.
Yeah, of course there are, but do they provide the same results? No.
Yeah.
It's all about trade-offs. You can do whatever, I tell my students, you can do whatever you want. I'm going to empower you with the information to know what each option can do and each option cannot do, but all the decisions are yours. I never, ever, ever tell anyone what to do. So the bottom line is, what are your goals? Is it your goal just to alleviate symptoms, or is it your goal to prevent the diseases? Because they are not the same.
That is
it's much
key.
better to prevent symptoms.
That's literally the key right there. If
Yes.
your goal is to just alleviate the symptoms, the over-the-counter stuff, all these homeopathic remedies, that's all great, but that's not going to adjust your levels of estrogen. And if your goal is to live longer, then and to prevent these age-related diseases, there's nothing that's going to replace the estrogen like hormone replacement therapy. Which brings me to the next question, and this question was asked so many times. Are there certain types of hormone replacement therapy, pellets, creams, BHRT, which is the estradiol and progesterone pill, sublingual estrogen and progesterone oils, that are more effective in elevating the hormone levels?
Okay, there's two parts to this answer. Number one, if your goal is to prevent the diseases, the only thing on our planet that can do that effectively and with guarantee is pharmaceutical estrogen. It does not matter whether it is, quote, bioidentical or not, because both the pharmaceutical industry and the compounding industry make bioidentical hormones. Bioidentical has become a marketing word. Okay, all it means is molecular. Okay, but women have the word bioidentical confused with the word compounded. They are not one and the same. Okay, so the only thing that you can use that is regulated so that you can guarantee protection of your heart rate and bones is pharmaceutical estrogen. Beyond that, brands and delivery systems do not matter, meaning the brand name and whether it's a patch or whether it's a gel or whether it's, okay, those are individual differences. The second key here is this. The only opinion that matters for any woman in terms of what is right for her is her bodies. Now, the problem here is that our bodies talk to us, but humans refuse to listen to our bodies. Humans are busy listening to Dr. Google and celebrities and marketing and advertising and labs and studies and girlfriends and terrorists and you name it. That's the problem, because no one else knows what your body needs.
Right.
No one can tell you what works for you, but your own body can. And your own body does a beautiful, beautiful job of telling you exactly whether or not you are getting enough estrogen. And here's how your body talks to you. Number one, if your body has enough estrogen, you will have 0 symptoms of estrogen deficiency. Doesn't that make sense?
Yes.
Number two, if your body has enough estrogen, your cholesterol and triglycerides and lipids will all remain stable from year to year. You will not have rising cholesterol every single year like some women do. And if your body has enough estrogen, you will not lose any bone. You see, these are the same things that estrogen used to do for you. So if you take enough estrogen now, it'll do the same thing, but it has to be regulated because only if it's regulated do you really know what you're getting. In the compounding industry, you don't know what you're getting. That's why you can't count on it for your heart, brain, and bones. Okay, so it all makes perfect sense, even if it's not what you want to hear.
Yeah. Yeah. It does make perfect sense. And the thing that I think is key here is it doesn't matter. Whatever works for you works for you. Whether it's the pellets, the patch, the oils, as long as it's pharmaceutical estrogen and it's alleviating your symptoms. And so I've often told clients that I work with who are on all of the, supplemental stuff, the black cohosh and all of that, if you really want to know what's going on with your hormones, get off of all of the things that are masking the symptoms, and let's see really what are the symptoms that are manifesting themselves because of the lack of estrogen. Is that a good advice? Or
well, here's the thing. The problem with humans right now is that we are all very impatient, and that is thanks to the marketing world, because the two most powerful marketing words are quick and easy. Okay? Yeah. You are bombarded with products and promises all the time that everything's going to be quick and easy. Well, I am sorry to tell you this, but hormones just don't work that way. I mean, there's a reason that your monthly cycles were a month long. So when it comes to finding the right menopause management for you, you have to have the patience to let your body talk to you, and you always need to do 2-month experiments with everything you try, and you can only change one thing at a time if you want to be able to make any sense of it all. In science, the most basic thing we have is something called isolation, which means you can only study one thing at a time. Well, what I see women do is they go out and they get estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, DHEA, pregnenolone. I mean, they bombard themselves with all this junk, and then they wonder why they can't make any sense of it. And it's like, well, there's no way that you started out. You started out in a way where you sabotaged yourself. You are not, there are 3 sex hormones, and the 3 sex hormones are like the 3 bears in Goldilocks and the 3 bears. Testosterone belongs to Papa Bear. It's his hormone. Estrogen belongs to Mama Bear. Well, all us women, we are Mama Bear. That's our hormone. And progesterone belongs to Baby Bear. If you're Mama Bear, you've got to get your estrogen right before anything else is going to be right. Sorry, but that's just the way it goes. And the only reason Mama Bear produced progesterone was to protect Baby Bear in utero. That's it. So progesterone has no role for us personally at all. But at menopause, estrogen is what thickens the lining in the uterus. And if you don't take progesterone with it, it'll stay too thick, and that increases our risk for uterine cancer. That is why we take both estrogen and progesterone if we have a uterus. But that's the only reason why. Progesterone has no benefit for women at all in terms of any kind of health benefit other than preventing uterine cancer. And I see women focusing more on progesterone than estrogen. And when they do that, I say to them, are you Mama Bear or are you Baby Bear? And they look at me and they smile and they go, oh. And I'm like, you've got to focus on your own hormone if you want any chance of success. And estrogen has to be the driver of everything. The goal is getting enough estrogen. Oh, and then I have women all asking me, well, what about too much? And I go, you had a bucket. And all the hormone replacement for menopause is nothing but drops. You had a bucket. Perimenopause brought your bucket to a water bottle. That's when you started feeling horrible. And you're replacing with a drop, and you're worried about getting too much? Really? Okay, this is how you have to understand what you're doing, because if you don't know what you're doing, you are going to fail. That's the best recipe for failure right there. Okay.
So how do we know if we're getting too much?
It's all very logical. It's just that you have to think logically through it and listen to your own body and quit listening to everybody else, because nobody else knows anything. Okay? Your body will not lie to you.
Yeah. So so is there any risk of getting too much? Because one of the questions was that the doctor was wanting their tests, which now we know the blood tests are not really that accurate. We'll talk about the saliva tests in a second, but her doctor is wanting to now taper her down from the estrogen because of whatever tests came back.
What does her body say? Look, it should not be your menopause management someone else's way, doctor or otherwise. It should be your management, it's your way. And the bottom line is there are always symptoms for every excess hormone and every deficient. Okay, so there's symptoms of estrogen excess, there are symptoms of estrogen deficiency. There are symptoms of progesterone excess, there are symptoms of progesterone deficiency. There are symptoms of testosterone excess, and there are symptoms of testosterone deficiency. I teach all that. Every consultation client I get, I make sure they have the list of all of those things, and that helps them refer to, well, what does it look like the problem is here? But it's very difficult to get too much estrogen, especially when you walked around with a bucket and your pregnancies were 10 buckets each. Yeah. And when you think about it, you think, well, golly, if you didn't have problems with excessive estrogen in pregnancy, how in the world are you going to get them now?
Right. That absolutely makes perfect sense. So is your recommendation, we have these symptoms, we're walking around with these symptoms, is your recommendation before you start any other, testosterone, progesterone, you get your estrogen right, and you do it in like 2 months increments of staying on a certain dosage until you see if your symptoms go away. If your symptoms go away, your estrogen is probably sufficient at that point. If your symptoms return, you need to add more. Is that a good rule of thumb?
Well, yes and no, except for the fact that the only women who can take estrogen all by itself are those without a uterus.
Oh, okay.
So any woman with a uterus is going to do her first experiment with both estrogen and progesterone, and we just try to match them in a way where we try to assess what she needs, but we're focusing on the estrogen. The progesterone is a piggyback. The progesterone has to just kind of go along with the estrogen. The focus has to be estrogen, okay? So you either start with estrogen alone if you have no uterus, or you start with estrogen and progesterone together if you have a uterus, and you do a 2-month experiment minimum, and you have to be patient because we don't care what happens during the 2 months. I mean, think about all the crap we put up with a menstrual cycle. I mean, good Lord, we have acne, we have bloating, we have mood swings, we have tenderness, we have all kinds of stuff, and we put up with it, right? Okay, what happens with HRT is women have this very same symptoms from the very same 2 hormones that created your menstrual cycle, but when they have them because of HRT, they freak out.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, my breasts had to stop. Okay, no, you don't. You just do the experiment, for goodness sake. You need this data because some of these symptoms may come and go. You need to know, what is your body going to tell you at the end of the 2 months? What's the verdict? Right. And you have to give your body 2 months to tell you what's what. Because if you don't stick with the 2-month experiment, nobody can help you.
Right.
And at the end of 2 months, if everything is not perfect, then we tweak and adjust according to what your body tells us. But your body is the boss. Your body's opinion is the only one that matters, and you have to give your body time to give you that opinion. And that's how this works. Problem is, people are very impatient.
Right. Yeah, so give it the 2 months. Estrogen piggybacks with progesterone. If you have a uterus, that makes absolutely perfect sense to me. And then give it the 2 months and then have your doctor adjust then. So what is going on then with the testing in terms of, I know the blood tests are bullshit, but with the saliva tests now that people are doing for hormones.
Same thing. Blood, saliva, or urine, all of them are completely worthless. Don't waste your time. The saliva is the most inaccurate of all. But no, none of these make any sense whatsoever. None of them. And I just tell women, look, if you'll listen to your body instead of a lab, you'll be way better off. And you should, if your doctor wants to use a lab, just run. Because the bottom line, here's what's going to happen if you use any lab. I guarantee this. If you use any kind of labs, there will be a day when you're standing there going, oh my goodness, I can't stand the way I feel. My vagina is on fire. I can't think about anything. I can't sleep. I'm miserable. And your doctor is going to say, oh, but your labs are fine. You're right where I want you. Goodbye. So you have let the lab govern everything instead of your body. Do you want to listen to the lab or you want to listen to your body? If you get labs, your doctor's going to use the labs. So don't get the labs. Make your doctor listen to you. Make your doctor listen to you.
I love that. I love that. You have to be proactive in your health. You have to know, like, if you have symptoms, and I want everybody to understand this. If you're experiencing symptoms, it's not just hot flashes and brain fog. We're talking about dementia and Alzheimer's and heart attacks and bone density. So there was a question about, I'm on HRT, but I've still been having hot flashes and anxiety for 7 years. That was a question here.
Those are both symptoms of estrogen deficiency. And if you have enough estrogen, you will have zero symptoms of estrogen. That's one of the 3 ways your body's talking to you. Your symptoms are daily things that you can pay attention to. Your cholesterol and triglycerides, you're not going to get more than every 6 months to 12 months. And your bone density you're going to get the first one when you first start losing estrogen. But beyond that, it's going to depend on what did the first one show us, because that's going to determine the next one. Okay, but you need to listen to these 3 pieces of data, symptoms being one big long list, cholesterol studies being number 2, and bone density being number 3. All of them matter. Tell me, what does it mean if you're taking HRT and all of your symptoms go away, but your cholesterol keeps rising?
All your symptoms have not gone away.
It means you still don't have enough estrogen. You have enough to alleviate symptoms, but you don't have enough to satisfy your heart, right? Okay, what does it mean if you take HRT and all your symptoms go away and your cholesterol is nice and stable, but you keep losing bone?
You don't have enough estrogen.
You don't have enough. You see, you have to meet all these needs. Okay, so if one of them says, I'm not happy, there's your answer. That is your body saying, sorry, I don't agree. Here's what I say to women. Do you think my hair cares if I heard that straight hair is better and I found thousands and thousands of studies to prove it?
No, it's doing its thing.
My hair does not care what I think at all, and nothing that I want will ever matter to my hair. This is how your menopause management works. Your body does not care what you heard, read, believe, prefer. Your body does not care. And as long as you can't get out of your head with all the stuff that you've heard from out here, as long as you can't let go of what's in here and listen to your body, you will fail.
Yeah. So you guys, this was a very key point, because we don't have elevated cholesterol when we're 20 or 30.
No.
We get elevated cholesterol in correlation with a drop in estrogen. So if your doctor is looking and saying, hey, your cholesterol is now elevated,
exactly,
you guys, we need to check our hormones, right?
Yeah,
okay, the next question, there was a lot of questions about testosterone and people getting testosterone shots for libido, for fatigue, for muscle, to build muscle. What is your thought on those?
Testosterone is to men what estrogen is to women, okay? Never forget that you are mama bear. So everything you just described, our sex drive comes from estrogen, not testosterone. That's why we experience sex differently than men.
Yeah.
Okay, but if you don't get your estrogen,
oh my gosh, hopefully we can get you back. Oh, there you are.
No way you can assess whether or not you have testosterone. You have to get estrogen right before
It's a little glitchy.
Before you even consider testosterone. And what I see is women worry more about testosterone than they do estrogen. They get everything backward. You have to get estrogen right before you can even ask the question, do I need testosterone? After your estrogen is right, if you need testosterone, then you can address whether you need it and how you need it and what kind you need. Because if you take testosterone, you're going to have masculinizing side effects, just like Papa Bear.
Right. And often too, I think people are getting testosterone shots for energy and for all of that. And it's not, it's taking the focus away from what the root cause is, which is estrogen.
Well, it's fear.
Somebody's asking, what about thyroid?
Fear makes people try to use anything but the thing they fear. So when everyone's told you that estrogen is some kind of demon, women try to use anything but estrogen. So they go to every problem in urban. Nothing's ever going to do what estrogen does.
Nothing's ever going to do what estrogen does, because that's what we need to get. That's what we need to get.
You know how they say diamond. You know how they say diamonds are a girl's best friend.
Yes,
that's not true. Estrogen is a girl's best friend, and without estrogen, you're not going to get any diamonds. I guarantee. Okay, so the bottom line is, estrogen was your fountain of youth, and it's what made you feel female and wonderful. It made you you. And when you lose it, I cannot tell you the number of women who say, I feel like a shell of myself. I feel like I don't know who I am anymore. I mean, they just feel completely lost. And it's because you lost the hormone that was your essence of being. I mean, our hormone is estrogen. That is ours. And
yes,
we need to start reclaiming it.
absolutely. You know, there's also a lot of women in midlife that are going on antidepressants, not realizing that mood fluctuations are part of menopause, and estrogen deficiency, replacing that estrogen, puts your mind back where it's supposed to be.
Exactly. Well, mood changes are a part of every hormonal transition. Puberty, PMS, pregnancy, perimenopause, there's no hormonal transition that doesn't involve mood changes. And this is true for both men and women. When boys go through puberty, they're moody.
Yeah.
So moods and hormones kind of go together.
Right.
They just do.
So who would be the person, which this question came up a lot too. My doctor won't prescribe hormone replacement therapy for me, or says I'm not a candidate. What do I do? Where do they go? And I know you do consultations at menopausetailor.me, but what is another option? Would they just go to like a hormone specialist? Where's the best place to get this kind of information?
Well, here's the thing. My goal and my product is education, period. Okay, just education. I want to empower women to know how to navigate the menopause world and how to get what they want. So if you've never had a consultation with me and all you've done is watch videos and try to make this a do-it-yourself program, you are going to have to find a doctor who knows enough about menopause and who will listen to you so that you can have your menopause your way. The problem is, menopause is the most neglected topic on earth, and finding a doctor who knows anything about menopause is not easy. It's harder than finding a good husband. And yet, the person who runs your menopause, the person who manages your menopause, is the person with whom you'll grow old, because literally you're talking about your fountain of youth, okay? On the other hand, if you have had a consultation with me, you don't need anyone for their knowledge because you have me. And if you'll come to me first, I will always educate you and empower you to know everything. And in that case, you just need to go find yourself a scribe. You need someone who will write the prescriptions for what you want, and they don't have to know anything. So if you've had a consultation with me, you can go to someone who says, I don't know anything about menopause, but I'll give you what you want. But the key is you either have to rely on someone for what they know, or you have to know how to make decisions yourself. And I promise every woman with my education knows 90% more than most doctors. Every single one of them.
Yeah.
And that's
because it's our bodies. We're experiencing it.
Yeah.
So somebody did ask as well, if they're still in their 60s, and it came across the thing. So I just want to make this very clear. They're at the end of their 60s and they're having hot flashes. That means you need to up your estrogen, right?
Yeah.
You need to up your estrogen.
At any age, if you have any symptoms of estrogen deficiency, you don't have enough estrogen. That's all there is to it. I mean, for those of you, you're not a robot. Your dosage of estrogen may vary over the course of your life. I mean, think about it. When you've been used to the bucket, you are going to need more estrogen. 10 years. I mean, it's going to be different. Okay. So you have to let your body be your guide. You have to give your body what it wants, regardless of what you think about it.
Yeah. Somebody's asking, what if I'm estrogen dominant? That doesn't really, we're supposed to be kind of estrogen dominant, aren't we?
Well, of course, but see, the estrogen dominance is a marketing word. Estrogen dominance is a word that was created by an alternative practitioner to scare women away from estrogen and make them buy progesterone. It is not a medical entity. We are all estrogen, quote, dominant in the first half of every cycle. We are all progesterone dominant in the second half of every cycle. This word estrogen dominance makes no, it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
There's no such thing. Of course we're dominant. We're women. Our hormone is estrogen. How in the world could we be anything but dominant? Men are testosterone dominant, aren't they? Okay. It's an insane word.
Yeah. It really is.
Completely.
It really is.
It doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah. Okay. So somebody's asking, what are the starter doses of HRT?
That depends on the person.
Depends on
That
the
depends
person.
on your age. I mean, no one can tell you these things. These questions, when you're asking other people, it means that you don't know enough to answer yourself. Your body has to tell you. No one else can tell you what to start with or what product your body's going to like. We all have to find what's right for us. Every woman. We all have this journey of experiments to right for us. Every single one of us. There are no exceptions. There's nobody who gets a quick fix.
So if somebody's just starting out, let's say we've got somebody here who's never been on HRT, but they're having hot flashes, or they've never been on HRT, but all of a sudden their cholesterol tests come back and their cholesterol's elevated and they've got a little brain fog, or they have insomnia. What is that first step for them? I mean, I would always say, get a consultation from Dr. Taylor, because you're going to learn more.
Because then you'll really understand it. But the key is this. Perimenopause, those 2 to 10 years of transition, are mostly the disappearance of progesterone first, followed by the disappearance of estrogen. Postmenopause is when they both get to 0. Okay, in that 2 to 10 year period of time called perimenopause, you can still get pregnant. And because it's so chaotic, you can get pregnant with twins more likely than before, because chaos can make 2 eggs release instead of 1.
That makes
sense. So it's a time frame during which you have to think about both birth control and getting enough estrogen when your body is still used to the bucket. So that is an ideal time for most women to use birth control that contains both estrogen and progestin. The problem is women start using birth control with progesterone only, which is completely stupid, because estrogen is their hormone. Yeah. And if you don't replace the estrogen, you leave the gap open to develop the diseases. So if in that period of perimenopause, if you're a good candidate for estrogen and progesterone together birth control in the form of a pill, a patch, or a vaginal ring, it's a wonderful time to make sure you're preventing pregnancy, make sure you're taking a high enough dosage to prevent the diseases when you're still used to the bucket, and bridge the gap between losing your own estrogen and replacing it. And the cutoff, the guideline cutoff age for birth control is 55. Now, I think guideline cutoff ages are completely stupid because we don't all age the same way. So what you really want is a doctor who will tailor everything to you and decide what your benefits and risks are, and take you off from a birth control and transition to HRT whenever it's right for you personally. But you need to know that the guidelines do say age 55, and be prepared for your doctor to pull the rug out from under you, because that's what some do. And so
is there anything wrong with just staying on the birth control pill and using that as estrogen?
It depends on your personal risks and benefits. Remember, everything is benefit versus risk. So some women should stop taking birth control at age 35, like smokers.
Yeah.
But others are great candidates to continue until they're 60. See, this is the problem. Everything has to be tailored to you, because if you don't tailor it to you, it means nothing.
Yeah. So interesting. This is very, very fascinating. We have a question come up, just said, what best foods are for perimenopause? Do foods have any real effect?
This depends on the person too. You know, I think we should all be doing food experiments ourselves to find out what our bodies want in terms of food too. You know, your body may hate grains. Your body may hate dairy. Your body may hate. It depends on what your body wants. And as you get older, okay, you know, I'm old. I'm 64. As you start getting older, your body does start changing its opinion of what foods you're allowed to eat. I mean, even when you think you've always loved this love that. Sometimes your body goes on strike and says, sorry, sister, I don't agree anymore. And you will pay big time if you eat this or that. Okay. But this is something we should all be doing, finding out what our bodies want and how our bodies work best. And it doesn't matter what anybody else is doing. A food experiment only needs to be 2 weeks for you to get the information that you need to know whether or not something is right for you or not.
Yeah.
So, if you want to see what a 100% plant-based diet does for you, try it for 2 weeks. Don't cheat. Try it for 2 whole weeks. See how you feel. What's the difference? Is it better? Is it worse? That's your body talking to you.
Yeah. So interesting. Somebody's asking thoughts on the compounded BHRT. It just depends. I'm going to answer the question. It just depends on how your body feels on that, correct?
Yeah, but it also depends on whether you want to protect your heart, brain, and bones, because nothing in the compounding world can protect your heart, brain, and bones. That you automatically forfeit that option, that goal, if you choose. Compounded is not regulated. You do not know what you're getting. Every dose, every batch will be different. There is no way to know what you're actually taking. I'm not saying it's bad for you. I'm saying you can't guarantee what you're getting. You can't rely.
Yeah.
You can't trust your heart, brain, and bones to it. You can trust your symptoms to it, but not your heart, brain, and bones.
That's really good. That's really, really key. So I just want to let's just recap a little bit, because we need to wrap it up. But when I'm looking at these questions, and the questions just poured in, I had so many questions, and a lot of them had to do with the age on when to start. We've gone over that it really depends on the symptoms, right? If you're experiencing any of those giant list of symptoms that are associated with menopause, which includes an elevated cholesterol, which includes insomnia, which includes night flashes, hot flashes and night sweats, and that kind of irritability, all of that. If you're experiencing any of those, you need to, if you want to improve your brain and your bones and your heart and protect those through the aging process, you need to replace the estrogen. So it's getting to the root of the problem. And it doesn't matter how you do it, as long as it's pharmaceutical and it's alleviating the symptoms. And when the symptoms are alleviated in a pharmaceutical replacement of estrogen, we know that our heart and our brains and our bones are more protected. Did I get that right?
Well, you do the testing of your cholesterol and your bones to prove that. You always want the proof. There are no all the diseases are silent until deadly. So you're not going to know that there's cholesterol building up in your arteries. You're not going to know you're losing bone. You're not going to know that your brain is shrinking. They are all silent until deadly. That is why you use your lipid studies and your bone density test to tell you if you're accomplishing the disease goals. Because you will not know based on your symptoms. You will not know. Don't fall for that. You will not know. Your symptoms are only about symptoms themselves. It is easy to alleviate symptoms. It is not as easy to prevent the diseases. Just remember, a hot flash will come and go, but a heart attack will come and kill you.
Yes, that's really good advice. The hot flashes will come and go. The heart attack will kill you. So it's more than just alleviating those symptoms or having estrogen to the point where the symptoms subside. You really need to make sure that we're getting tested for bone density, that our cholesterol is getting tested, the flexibility of our arteries is getting, the hardening of the arteries is being tested. All of these things will help us live not only longer on the planet, but we're going to feel a lot better while we're doing it.
You live better. It's about making the rest of your life the best of your life. That's what this is about.
I love that. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Taylor. You guys can find Dr. Taylor at menopausetaylor.me. I really encourage you to do a consultation with her. She's on YouTube as Menopause Barbie or Menopause Taylor. This is Dr. Barbara Taylor. Thank you so much for being here today. Just a wealth of knowledge. It's just unbelievable. I'm so grateful, because I get these questions all the time, and there's no source that I trust more than you. So thank you guys so much. Thanks for being here. I'll see you guys tomorrow where I'll be microneedling. If there's any last words you want to say, Dr. Taylor,
no,
the floor.
Thank you, everybody, and let's have a menopause revolution.
Yes, a menopause revolution. Okay. Thank you so much. Okay. Bye.